Hello again, welcome back. If you have added this course late, please make sure that you complete materials from week 1 before you work on week 2. Last week we focused on introductions to the course, a review of college reading and writing, and if anybody has questions about that material or about the They Say, I Say chapters for class discussion, online discussion, or viewing academic writing as a form of discussion, please share in your comments below to get that conversation started. Of course, I can respond to your comments, but anybody is welcome to respond just like you would in a face-to-face classroom. Last week we also did some signups. So we signed up for weekly discussion leaders and for discussion times for your groups. Anybody who didn't get a chance to sign up for their week for discussion leader was just randomly assigned to an open spot. So this week it's going to be Nate and Yija who will offer us some discussion topics. Remember that those are due on Wednesday morning and you're obligated to reply to 3 of your classmates. So review the guideline page before you jump into that assignment, and of course get in contact with me if you have any questions. Similarly, if you didn't sign up for a discussion group, everybody who didn't sign up was just grouped all together. So I think we have one sort of large discussion group. If you don't find that to be convenient, it's a little harder in the big group like that because you have to read and respond to so many posts rather than in a small group. If you don't find that to be convenient, just remember, not next week, but the following week, we're gonna have signups again. So sign up on time so that you can choose a discussion group that works for you. Before we get going on this week's material, please review back over all of the announcements, discussions, lessons, and pages that we had so that you can catch up on comments or information that have happened since the last time you logged in. This week, we're going to begin our kind of new content and lessons. So we're going to start with our first lesson, just what is critical thinking, an introduction to like how do we think critically, how can we use critical thinking to distinguish between facts and opinions, to identify manipulative or distracting language practices, use critical thinking to evaluate claims and ideas that we see either in our academic work or in everyday life. And then also, what are those critical thinking lenses that we can use to focus on the significance and impacts of the ideas that we study? Examples of those critical thinking lenses might be familiar to you already. They come in flavors like feminism, Marxist criticism, eco-critical perspectives, post-structuralism, and other formal styles of thinking. So we'll just have a really brief introduction to some of those. So there will be a lesson presented just like how we had last week. So there will be presented in a discussion board and you will have a chance to participate in the lecture just like you would in the classroom by asking questions to better understand the content, checking that you understand it by maybe paraphrasing it or repeating it back in your own words. And then you can also connect with some of the ideas from the lesson, like telling if you've ever heard of that idea before, maybe telling if you already use this kind of thinking in your everyday life. Also maybe saying whether you agree or disagree with some of the content. So if it seems maybe questionable or if it seems to bump up against your ideas that you already have, you can disagree with it and say why. Those can also often lead to really interesting class discussions. And then for your homework, you're going to have 2 web pages to read, and I will provide links to those web pages, and I will also provide them in a PDF copy to make it easy to print, easy to access. So the first one is going to be like a history of critical thinking. The second one is going to be an overview of the definition of critical thinking, or the many definitions, and kind of like just what is this concept. And then you'll also, in addition to those 2 web pages, you will also have a glossary of critical thinking terms. This is kind of a lengthy document, so you might want to print it as 2 pages per sheet. Use both sides, because I think it'll run you close to like 30 pages if you don't change the settings at all. And then to go along with that, your informal writing assignment is going to be to share a quotation from each of those texts, so 1, 2, and 3. Share a quotation that stood out to you, you liked it, if for any reason. Your quotation should be at least a sentence, and you can use ellipsis. If you don't want to use the entire sentence, you can use brackets if you want. You must include the paragraph number, so at the end of your quote, in parentheses, list the paragraph number by writing lowercase par dot space and then the number, so count through the paragraphs. And then when it comes to the glossary one, you just share the term. You don't have to share the definition. You don't have to say why you liked it, but just share the term that you liked the best from the glossary. One note before you complete that assignment: read through the Padlet board, which you'll see when you get into the discussion board, is how you'll submit your informal writing today. It's a Padlet, so there's going to be cards, and you just click the add button and you add your own card, so that will have your quotation on it. Read through the cards that are already there, and do not repeat a quotation or a vocabulary term that is already on the board. If you do repeat a quotation that's already there, if the one that came before you has been there for 15 minutes or longer, you'll lose 10% on your assignment. So carefully read the assignment postings that are already there before you submit. And then also, as a reminder, this homework assignment is going to be due on Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. If you miss that deadline, if it's later than that, you're going to lose 10% for every day that it's late. So that will take you from 100% to a 90%, from an A+ to an A- if you repeat a quotation or if you submit your work 1 day late. If you have any questions or you want any more detailed clarifications about any of your assignments, either reviewing from last week, viewing and participating in today's lesson, or completing your homework reading and quoting activity, please reply below and I can help you get those questions cleared up.